that's a huge lesson I learned for that project. Doesn't matter how big it is, how badly you want it. You do all the work, you do all the preparation, but in the moment when you step in and you perform, you have to just step out of the way and let it flow.
Welcome, Zadran Wali, to the Sohile Ali Show. It's an honor, and I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. I've been watching your show. I'm a fan of yours. And so it's great to be here.
That means so much to me and to my family, as we are huge fans of yours, supporters of yours as an actor, as we've loved your performance as Kasim on United States of Al, the hit CBS comedy. So we want to, thank you again for sharing a conversation with me today.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice to hear. And I love that you said Kasim. You said it the right way.
Of course, I am Afghan after all.
Yeah. Ursula, who wrote the character, named the character after her dad. And so it's a little bit of a shout out to him.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. It's been such a pleasure to work on this show and bring this character to life. And, as everybody knows, and as you know, it's rare to see Afghan characters on network TV, and then to be able to speak Dari, bring that and some of our culture and customs, and showing how beautiful it really is to the world has been been an absolute pleasure.
Well, no, that's beautiful. The Ursula Tahiryan's written of the character. Shout out to her father. That's beautiful. I did not know that, and I mean, certainly, as she would probably agree, you portray of an Afghan father so beautifully, so eloquently, and I want to get into this role as well. But I kind of wanted to start off. People know you as an actor, a longtime person working in this business. I wanted you to be able to share, if you would, kind of your origin story as to how you first got started in the film and TV business.
Oh boy, it's a long story. I grew up in Germany, so born in Afghanistan originally, and then moved from there to Iran, and then Italy, and then ended up in Germany when I was 5 years old, and got into theater in Germany at my school for the first time, and that's where the bug bit. Getting in front of a live audience and the reactions, and so that's where it started in Germany at school, and then I moved to San Diego when I was 16. There was a culture shock, a language barrier, so I fell out of performance, sort of retreated into myself for a while and just became very observant, and watched for a couple of years, and absorbed the culture and the language and all of that, and then slowly found my way back into acting and started taking acting classes, and started performing in San Diego, and I did some small things at the Old Globe down there, various theater productions, and then Stu Siegel is a producer down there, and he had a couple of shows. One of my first shows was Veronica Mars.
Oh yeah, sure.
Do you know it?
I've heard of yes, yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I worked on that and some of the San Diego productions, and then I decided it was time to play with the big boys, and packed up and moved up to LA, and just kind of been playing the game ever since.
Been working ever since, absolutely, and working and continuing to work, and people listening, watching, look up his IMDb. He's been working since he started, and it's really great. For myself, for everyone that's an Afghan in the arts or interested in the arts, to see someone like yourself and your contemporaries having work and playing roles, not just the stereotypical roles, but certainly now, as we see, as positive as a Afghan role can get on CBS, is it's very inspiring.
Oh, it's so inspiring. Absolutely. I mean, when I started, there was nothing really for Afghan actors, and the Middle Eastern characters were starting to come around, and it was very stereotypical, terrorist #2 type of stuff.
Right.
But I kind of fall into this ethnically ambiguous category, which is a term that's being used in in our industry quite a bit.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Y-
that allowed me to play some other ethnicities, and I speak some other languages, and so that allowed me to play around. So I got a chance to do different things, not fall into the trap of doing the stereotypical bad guy thing, which I've done that as well. I mean, I've played that, and it's fun occasionally, if the
Sure, sure.
right.
Right.
But it's so exciting to see the industry opening
Hmm.
up the way it is, and our stories being told, and our people from our part of the world being portrayed as complex,
Hmm.
multi-dimensional characters.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I'd love to just get right into it. As we mentioned earlier, you playing the role of Qasim, an Afghan father, business owner in the Midwest, as portrayed in United States of Al. How did you first get involved with the show? I love to ask everyone, kind of what was their first, how'd they hear about it, how they hop on board?
Well, being an Afghan in the industry, it was on my radar very early on. There's a buzz that it was happening, and so I followed it. And then, knowing that Chuck Lorre was involved, is everything he does turns into gold, basically. So it was on my radar, and then it was happening, and then COVID happened, and the
Mm,
pandemic, everything kind of got quiet.
hmm.
Um, and then I realized that the production was up and running, and I told my agents to keep an eye out. And the first role I auditioned for was the role that Wali ended up booking, which was written as his brother, not his cousin.
Ah,
And
oh,
so,
Zubair was originally his brother. Interesting.
right, yeah, and I think the character name may have been different. I forget.
Oh, sure.
And so I auditioned for that. It was a self tape, and then two
Hmm.
weeks later, I think I got a second audition for this character. And again, with the pandemic, it's all self tapes, as I'm sure everybody knows.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
filmed myself doing it, sent it in, and ended up getting the part.
And
Yeah.
I mean, from that, yeah, it was clearly a production, not only with Afghans behind the scenes, but real Afghans, on camera, as I've had the honor of speaking to Zarmina Hamidi,
Mm,
um,
she's
you
so
know,
great.
as we mentioned, Wali Habib. I have scheduled with Setara. So these are amazing, your fellow workers in this industry. I wanted to know, as soon as you stepped on for your first day on set, what did you remember from that first impression of the whole experience?
Oh man, it's such a wonderful set to be on.
Mm.
I noticed how welcoming everybody was, how grounded and nice everybody was. Maria and David, who are the showrunners, creators of the show, just so warm, so nice. So instantly I felt at home. And, I've met Azita in passing, Azita Ghanizada, who plays my daughter. So I ran into her, which was nice. And we kind of caught up a bit, chatted with I never know how to pronounce his name correctly, Athir, I think it's
Oh,
Athir,
okay.
the lead, of course.
Yeah.
And he's one of the loveliest people I've met, just in general, such a nice guy. So instantly
Hmm.
very warm, friendly, welcoming. Um, and then I had a decent sense of who this character was.
Hmm.
A huge family, all based in San Diego.
No,
Two of
great.
my uncle's own kebab shops,
Oh, yep, yep.
as it goes, right?
Oh,
So
I love it.
yeah, so I definitely kind of pulled from them and who they are, and
Oh.
our families are so tight knit, and so yeah, so the character kind of developed from there and kind of came
Mm.
naturally. Um, and then the multicam process is, of course, you
Hmm.
go in, you do a table read, you get very quickly get into rehearsals, you get notes, you flesh out the whole piece.
Hmm. Hmm.
And with no studio audiences now, we get to film
Right.
3 days, which is nice.
Right. Some different
Uh,
angles. Take your time.
exactly. We have a
Hmm.
bit more time to play, which is a great way to enter a show, to have that time to play and get directed. And Mark Sandrovsky, who directed us, is, a rare talent. He,
Mm.
he knows where to find the jokes, so he's
Mhm.
constantly, try it this way. What about this? Say it this way. And so he hones it in with us. And yeah, and it just kind of happened. And it happens quickly. It's a week to film the
Mhm.
episode. It's moving, and next thing
Yeah.
you're filming and it's done.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I'm so glad to hear, from the viewer's perspective, and myself, my family, our community, and the audience, it especially that episode, your first episode, wrote Sweetbread.
Mm.
That's my all-time favorite episode so far.
Oh, great.
Just
That's awesome.
it was so wonderful. You know, you and Adir were the first to speak. Actually, you know, Dari Farsi on screen, which you know my family absolutely loved. Were you? I was wondering if you were giving him any tips as you were always when we were reading lines, or were you helping him with the pronunciations, perhaps?
It was a little bit. I was helping him with the pronunciations. I'm fluent in Dari, so I certainly helped him. But there are so many people on the show who are capable, and the notes are coming to him.
Right.
So I have to realize what my place is, and
Sure. Sure.
I stepped out of the way for the most part.
Sure.
Atir is, and he's taking on Dari, he's taking on Pashto, he's taking on an accent. And those were the beginning stages of the show. So I would see him. He's a
Mm,
hardworking guy. He made it happen. It's not easy.
mhm,
Between each take, he would have notes from translators and from all sides, and
mhm, mhm.
he
Certainly.
juggled it like a champ.
So yeah, you know, that's something my family were always, you know, giving him the credit for is, you know, it wasn't the obvious decision, obviously, to go with a non-Afghan lead for the show, and you know, we got through the whole controversy of that. But I mean, he's a performer. He's a brilliant actor. You know, as you would say yourself. So just to get your behind the scenes take on all the work that was being done, clearly he deserves the praise. And
He absolutely does. Yeah, he's got his. I like paper, so I have a paper script. He's got his on an iPad,
um,
and constantly he's drawing circles. I'm moving over here, taking
ah,
notes. He's a perfectionist, and
sure.
it shows.
Yes, yes. And it shows, and in that episode, you know, we saw your character Kasim's Kabob shop in you know, the Midwest. So my family and I were also here in the Midwest, in Indiana, actually. So, you know,
Mhm.
my uncles, we have restaurants here too. So it was
Oh,
really cool to see that angle represented, like Afghans in the Midwest, you know, doing it in a little bit more of a non-traditional Afghan base, I guess, in the US, if you will.
right,
Um, but
certainly.
and I think much to Dean Norris's character Art's liking, you know, you were very hospitable to them,
Mm,
and all that fun stuff. Very nice interactions with not only Adir but the other cast members as well from
yeah.
that scene.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I got lucky. I got to sit at a table with most of them. I got to
Yeah.
interact with most of the cast on my first day. Again, I keep saying it, but it's true. They're all so nice. They're all so easy
Mhm,
to get along with.
mm.
Uh, yeah. And then in the second episode that I did, I have a connection with Dean Norris. They're building a bit of a friendship, and they have a friendly competitiveness over cooking meats,
Yeah.
which was so much fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, your second episode in season two, which is now, you know, premiering weekly, Mo Masood, which we now get to see Fahim on screen.
Mm,
Actually, I just want to say, you know, yourself alongside Azita and Fahim kind of represent the first Afghan sitcom family, you know, on network television. I mean, that meant so much to us. You know, it certainly had to mean a lot for you as well.
oh, it means everything to me. And like you, I'm a fan. I'm on the show, but I'm also a fan. And I watch it, and I can't believe it's on there. So many of our stories are being told,
Mm-hmm.
and my family loves it. So it's nice to be able to share it with them.
Absolutely. And you know, you mentioned the your interaction with Art. Um, in that episode in particular, your character brings over, I believe, like some kebab skewers because he had commented on in the restaurant.
We don't show up to a house without a present, right?
Especially not in that capacity, which you know, your Fahim, your son, coming over to talk to a representative, if you will.
That's
Um,
right.
and that dinner table scene, I mean, we were cracking up, my parents and I, because again, one more of you, like you said, you and a lot of the cast members, Azita and Fahim as well, um, having really funny dialogues, but also very meaningful. You know, especially what Azita was saying about someone pursuing a career that they enjoy. Would did you also kind of draw lines between those lines and those that interaction and maybe something from your own personal life?
Certainly. Yeah. I relate with Masood,
Hmm.
the character Mo. When I first started acting, it was like a guilty pleasure. I would
Mm.
sneak off to do my acting classes and I wouldn't tell anybody. And it was, I started some years back, and back then it was this idea that still probably exists, but a bit less, is the professions are, become a doctor, an engineer, uh, a lawyer, the those types of jobs.
Mm.
So yeah, certainly I could relate to Mo's story of uh, pursuing dreams versus that solid career.
Absolutely. But I mean, it's so important, and I'm certain you found your happiness and clearly your place in this industry too. Not an easy thing to pursue. I have many friends of mine and that have just graduated from acting programs and
Mm.
theater and the sorts, and they're packing it up. They're starting out, whether it be New York or L.A. or Atlanta even. Um, I wonder, now being in the working in this industry for so long, uh, do you find yourself with some advice for maybe those just starting out that they'd find helpful, or maybe that you found helpful along your way?
It's always hard to give advice. It's such a
Mm.
individual journey to success, or whatever success is in this industry. Um, the things that I found is, some of the things that I was told that really helped is relax
Mm.
into the work and into yourself. Work from a place of relaxation and stepping out of the way and giving up control. Um, that really allows who you are to come out. And we hear these things all the time, but it's that work from yourself, kind of like, ground yourself in who you are, be confident, be present in that, and work from that as a foundation. Um, Again, things you hear a million times, but it's true. You fail, keep failing, and just pick yourself up and keep going, and keep working on the craft.
Mm.
There's the craft of acting and there's the art of acting.
Mhm.
The art is, you just develop yourself as an artist, whatever that means to you.
Mhm.
The craft is like any craftsman, like
Mhm.
anyone building a table. The more tools you can use, the better you can build that piece of art that you're making.
Yeah,
So just keep acquiring tools for your craft. Learn as much as you can.
absolutely. No, that's wonderful. I know I appreciate it. I know my contemporaries would appreciate it as well. Um, in particular, from researching your work, I found, you've worked in various different mediums, right? TV, film, video games.
Mm.
What one that, stood out to me that I was very thrilled to see was that you were involved in some form with the Kite Runner film, which is one of my family's favorite, films. Clearly, the famous Khalid Hosseini adaptation. I was wondering if you would mind sharing your involvement with that production, what you took away, your some maybe memories from that.
Well, the interesting thing is my final involvement wasn't too much. I ended up going in for some of the post-production stuff, some consulting and some voiceover work.
Mm.
I went in for the lead part of that
Mm.
movie, and I auditioned for it, and I went in a few times, ended up not getting it. And I beat myself up over that one a lot because I really wanted that one. And the biggest lesson that I learned from that is exactly what I was just saying. I walked in trying to control it. I had it all dialed in.
Mm.
I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I wasn't relaxed enough. I didn't allow
Mm.
myself flexibility in the process. And
Mhm.
uh, and that's a huge lesson I learned for that
Mm.
project. Is,
Mhm.
doesn't matter how big it is, how badly you want it. You do all the work, you do all the preparation, but in the moment when you step in and you perform for an audition, for a callback, for the pieces,
Mhm.
you have to just um, settle in and step
Mm.
out of the way, and let it flow. And back then, I still wanted to control things a bit.
Sure, sure. Well, yeah, I mean, that is the valuable lesson, right? And as you mentioned earlier, or right off the bat, getting out of your own way, rather, maybe surrendering to the process, because those that may not, work in the field don't understand, like, there's hundreds of different roles and jobs on any given production. Acting is part of that, but certainly, you don't have to worry about, lighting and angles and things of these sort. Whereas, the lesson there is, focus on, like you mentioned, the craft. But I did want to ask you, in your experience now working for so long, was there any other roles that also interest you, writing, perhaps directing? I know the sound department work and post production, perhaps, that also spark interest in you, that you say, you know what, I can see myself doing some more of this as well.
Certainly. I mean, out of those, directing is what draws me the most, and I've done some of that in theater.
Okay.
And I'm also part of a group called the 121. Shout out to the 121. It's a group of actors, and we've been getting together for a few years now. And throughout the pandemic, it was key to have them, and we got together once a week over Zoom and just creative work. And we would
Mm,
perform, and we created something called the monologue mashup, which a lot of people were doing in various ways. And so we ended up writing for each other, and then we would perform pieces that we wrote, that one of our friends wrote for us. So in that process, I discovered the writer in me,
mm-hmm.
which was really a lot of fun. And I didn't think I could do it, but having been in the industry for so long and having read so many scripts and
Right.
performed, naturally you get a sense of rhythm and timing and how to write dialogue. So
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that. And then directing is something I really want to get into more.
Mm,
That's something that really draws me, is being able to shape a whole piece,
mm,
and having the vision for the whole entire story that's being told.
mm,
Versus as an actor, you come in, you understand the story, you
mm,
understand where you fit in to tell that specific story.
mm-hmm.
As a director, you get to control sort of how it's being told. And so I that does interest me, and I dabble in it, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just you talking about, it makes sense that you would maybe gravitate or rather find writing a little bit more natural, having read so many of others' writings. And it made me interested in asking you, as someone also interested in all these different things, what is it you found as maybe a trait in a successful, or someone would say, oh, that's good writing, or rather maybe something that helps you as an actor when you're reading the script be more effective?
That is really hard to answer, Sohile John. A good script, I think a good script starts with a good story. It has to be a good story. Um, I like, this is me personally, I like stories that entertain,
Mhm.
that don't necessarily try to teach a lesson. Um, I mean, of course, everything teaches a lesson, on some level, a great story does, but not obviously, not a script that was written so it can get a message across.
Sure.
Um, just a great story that allows me, when I'm reading it,
Mm,
to leave myself, step
mhm,
outside of that, enter this world, and
mhm,
take that journey from the beginning of that script to the end,
mhm,
and how the writer managed to take us there, and all
mhm,
the surprises along the way. And
mhm.
I think you go from A to B, and it's like how you get there is what makes it interesting. All the surprises, and you get stuck, and like, oh man, how do I move forward from here? And the writer's imagination at that point creates things that maybe you didn't think of, and that's like, oh wow, exciting. And so a story like that excites me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And as you were speaking earlier about, your interest in directing, having, directed various productions and of the sort, I wonder if having being primarily rather an actor, having spoken to the various directors that you've had, what was it in them that they were able to successfully convey to you, maybe what they were looking for? Is there some kind of communication between a director and an actor that you say, I can recognize that as being that's someone who kind of has the vision and but is also able to communicate that to his actors such that he can get what, or he or she rather, they can get what they're looking for.
Right. I mean, that's the ultimate director. That's who you're looking for. Someone who has a sense of the story, is a great storyteller, can communicate with everybody in the way that they need to be talked to, because they're talking to all departments in various ways. And to talk to actors is different, because you're not
Mhm.
necessarily talking result oriented,
Mm.
but process, like, this is what I'm going, this is what I want, and this are possible ways of getting there.
Mhm.
um, to be able to talk to an actor in actor language is awesome, as when you get that as an actor.
Right.
But you don't always, and you have to be able to self-direct. And I think
Mm.
that's also part of, like I was saying, I've read so many scripts, and
Mhm.
because of that, I have a sense of writing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
from when you work as an actor and you get directed all the time, you get a sense of directing, at least yourself. You have to, because
Mhm.
some directors talk result oriented, like, this is what I want, and then there's a process of getting there, and that you have to direct yourself on,
Mhm.
giving them what they want. So
I think it speaks to the directors, the iconic top directors that have also maybe had acting experience themselves. I think Quentin Tarantino is a popular example where he came from acting background and certainly knows how to maybe talk to actors to get what he wants out of them.
oh
Um,
yeah, sure, he's great. I mean, there's Oliver Stone, who I don't think ever acted,
mhm.
but I've only heard his process is he gets it out of actors, but
Mhm.
he's not necessarily very kind to them.
Sure.
He gets it
Sure.
through a different process. Or Mike
Mhm.
Nichols, who is
Mm.
known for getting exceptional performances. um, they've found the language.
Mhm.
Mike Nichols, I think, comes from theater, and he's got a lot of background in that. um, yeah, but again, it goes back to story. I think if you're at the helm of this story, and that's the story you're telling,
Mm.
and your vision is very clear,
Mhm.
then you can put all the departments, you can direct them in the right way. It's like leading an orchestra, right? you
Yeah.
you lead everybody to that single vision, to tell the story the way you want it to be told.
I know I find myself here at the university level, there's student productions, and I often just kind of volunteer to be like an actor on set where I can just see how kind of the student has to run the whole thing, and it's a lot of work. Like the director, it's clearly the most work is the director's position. But I was just going to ask you actually, um, from having the theater background, as you mentioned, you growing up in Germany, at what age exactly did you first start acting on stage? And do you think that it's it's pretty critical or maybe very beneficial for a screen actor, say, have that stage live experience?
I was always a class clown. You could never keep me quiet. I got in trouble. I went to class with my cousin in Germany, who's now a doctor in Germany, very successful, very studious. And we were always in the same class, and we were the only two Afghan students
Mm.
in Germany, in a small town. And so our moms, who are sisters, would go to the parent-teacher conferences at the same time. My mom would come back so disappointed every time, because his notes were like, he's great, he's the best student in the class, he's phenomenal. And then my mom would hear, he only talks, all he wants to do is talk and make people laugh, and he's a clown, and he doesn't pay attention. So I think early on, I just I loved attention. I liked, even the classroom was a stage for me in some ways. um, and then
Mm.
I did my first play, I think, in fifth grade,
Mm. Oh,
where I played a barber who ends up buying the hair off of a girl who's desperate, and I'm kind of a Weasley character.
wow, it's pretty deep stuff for fifth grade.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was
Yeah.
actually, thinking back. Um, and we were doing it in an auditorium, and
Mm.
it was a small production, and we had handheld microphones that were plugged in.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and I remember I walked, and the plug came loose, and
Oh
I
no.
lost the microphone. And in that moment, I just dropped it, and I projected to the room, and the show
Mm.
went on. And I think that was one of the keys where I was like,
Mm,
oh, this is amazing. And everyone responded, and the feedback afterwards was great. Yeah, you didn't lose character. You stayed in, you made it work. Little things like that,
mm, mm.
and the bug bit back then. I just love that
Yeah,
attention what
sure.
you get as an actor.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, right. Having an audience's attention, holding on to it as an entertainer, performer, and certainly in that sense, the confidence to see a problem happen, just push right through and find the magic as you continued. I mean, that's clearly that's it started then and it hasn't stopped now.
well, yeah, it started then. That's kind of what got it going.
Hmm.
To answer your other question about is it important for actors to have stage experience if you want to end up in film, I'd like to say yes, because that was my journey, but I don't know,
Hmm.
I think you can do it anyway, but
Hmm.
if you can, yes. What happens on stage and what you get from a theater production and a live audience
Hmm.
and running a whole entire story or script from top to end, uninterrupted to tell that story, um, it builds your muscles as an actor.
Hmm.
You know, your ability to absorb all of that, to be able to do a 2 hour play and have it all in your head, to the repetition of doing it 2 times a day
Mm.
or nightly,
Right. Yes.
and managing to keep that fresh, and tap into
Hmm.
different ways to make it exciting for yourself.
The
All of
immersion, I imagine the immersion you have to be in, like in the story, like you mentioned, to not, there's no breaks, um,
it.
to truly capture the character you're playing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know what? One thing you can do on stage that you can't do on film is you can cheat a little bit.
Hmm.
On stage, if you are not necessarily feeling it 100% and you cheat a little, people don't necessarily know because it's big, right? They're not looking into your, eyes are the
Right.
window to the soul type of thing.
Sure.
Uh, so uh, that's the one thing that
Hmm.
can do on stage that you shouldn't bring to your film work.
Right. Sure, sure. It's the
Uh,
scale and the perspective in which it's received. But I mean, that's just hearing all of that from you. Like, that's so, I think it's so valid and valuable, honestly. I've seen, as I was telling the other actors, from the performances I've seen of acting students and people who are like truly dedicated to this art form, when they're on stage in these plays, I don't recognize them at all. I can't even see the person that I know to be my friend. It's just this character, and it's terrifying. It's beautiful. It brings me to tears, um, and these sort of things. So I shared this I guess love of the as from an audience perspective. And it's really really cool to hear your thought process on the whole thing too.
oh, that's great.
um, in particular now, moving forward, I going back to, the show. We're big fans. We hope it keeps going, many, many more seasons to continue. And do you have hopes for Kasim in the future? Should we expect to see more of him and the kebab shop?
I'd love to say yes. I don't know. They go one episode at a time, and so I'm waiting to hear myself. But of course, I'd love to be back. Kasim is just such a fun character for me to do. Like I'm getting a sense of him now, having done it a couple of times, and that
Yeah.
energy, and he's just so full of love and big, and uh, so it's really nice for me to dive into that. And being on that set is like being on a playground. For me as an actor, is when I'm on set, is like being on a playground as a kid.
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
all stunted in some ways. I'm a 10-year-old basically, right? And that's my playground. That's where I go to play. And uh, yeah, so we'll see.
No, I love it. I love it. And I mean, the way that episode, Masood episode ended, I think we'll certainly have to see more of the family uh, as well. So that's exciting. And from behalf of my family, myself, again, our inner community, really, really thrilled that you're a part of the production and the representation. Like you said, when you were first starting out and working the roles that were available, I was never able to tell my friends like, "Oh yeah, there's an Afghan on TV." Like that's kind of how my uncle is or this that. No, I had to like really tell them. Whereas they had all the families represented on TV. So again, it's so powerful. it's inspiring. It's everything to us. And yeah, just wishing you and the production the best moving forward. But before we, wrap up again, thank you for your time. I want to know, I typically ask this of my guests, who or what inspires you today?
Oh man, who or what inspires me today? That's a that's a great and deep question. I have a 5-year-old daughter. She's one of the biggest inspirations of my life. On a side note, I follow you on Instagram, and I saw your post with a little baby.
Oh,
And
it's my cousin. Yeah, it's my little cousin.
right. So I thought
Yes.
you were a new father until you clarified that. A lot of people
So,
must have thought
they
that.
did. I was like, I should have saved this for April Fools, but I'm a little bit in the future for me. But yes.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a side note. But yeah,
You're
my
good.
daughter is the biggest inspiration. Um, One of the things that I enjoy most, or not most, yeah, I could say that, I guess, is relearning everything through her eyes. Because
Mm,
when you have a child, you reteach them all these fundamental principles that you take for granted, you've based your whole life on.
mm,
And so as I re-explain these concepts to her, I re-examine all of them. And that's really helped me grow tremendously as a person.
mm.
Uh, so she's a huge influence on my life. She's teaching me daily. Um, and then, sorry, it was a two-part question. What person or what concept did you say?
I mean, that's perfect. I mean, that's the who, honestly. I mean, that's beautiful. And
Yeah,
and
yeah,
thank you for sharing that. But yeah, I guess, there was just who or what in general
yeah.
brings you inspiration.
Quickly, quickly, the what is being present, just being
Mm,
present. Everything that encompasses. Presence
mm.
is just confidence, owning everything, and so that's the what.
I must tell you, Zadran John, it's been an honor, it's been a pleasure, and I think that anyone who has listened, truly heard what you have said today, can take a lot of amazing things away, whether they're in the arts or not, whether they're a parent or hope to be one day or not. But these are the kind of things that I am grateful for to have heard from you and share with you today. So I thank you again for your
Uh,
time.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure. I'm a fan of yours. Keep up the great work.
The love is mutual. And we have family in Sacramento. My mom's side of the family lives in Sacramento, and I would love to come out there one day and can certainly chat in person, inshallah.
I'd love it.
Yeah. So again, thank you for your time. Wishing you the best. Everyone listening, watching, you can catch Sadran Jan as Kasim on CBS's United States of Al, airs Thursdays on CBS. Thank you again, Sadran Jan. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Real quick, before you click away, thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Click right here to subscribe to my channel for all future videos, and click right here to check out this video over here. Have a great one.